Okay, I'm Laura Howe. I am originally from the suburbs outside of Seattle, Washington in the US. I currently live in Lausanne, Switzerland. I mean, I really wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a writer, but the narrative that all of my teachers who are probably, who were poets who grew up in the 90s and went to school, the narrative was you cannot make money as a writer. So I held that in in the early 2000s, and I somehow stumbled into this world of book publishing. My start was in books. I had high plans to go to New York afterwards and find my way there. But around that same time, as all of this was happening, as I was finding my way, I had a boyfriend that we started dating the summer before I moved to Portland. And, it was one of those like, check the box, great, done, love, done. I don't have to worry about, being in this new city at this new university, which I chose purposely. Like, I purposely chose my school because nobody from my high school went there. I just was done with those people and wanted something new. But then all of a sudden I also had like a boyfriend that I was carrying with me from home through a long distance relationship. And as I was taking courses that were like opening my mind about like feminism, women's studies, media studies, and also seeing this world of like the literary world in Portland and extended, I was in this relationship. I just wanted to be with him, in the same city, in the same place. And so we decided to get married. And then I did not go to New York. So we got married, decided to move back to Seattle because that's where he was. And he had at least a job. Neither of us had jobs that like paid well, but I was like, okay, I have a better chance just graduating from grad school of finding some employment, whatever. I'll make the same money on the west coast of Seattle as I will in New York. So let's just go somewhere where at least cost of living is more controlled. Found my way to a publishing company there, very, very small. There was like 4 in Seattle. Was figuring my way through. And then around that time was when it was the 2008 stock market crash, which is a beautiful time to start to enter the work world. And I remember there was a day that I was struggling with my current job because it was like a sales job. It wasn't the publishing job that I wanted of being an editor or like a marketer and with authors. And I was just struggling because like I no training and all that. I was young, full stop. I was young, but thinking that I was older. And there was one day I was going to have my Jerry Maguire moment of like walking in with like a plan that I was going to present to my boss. And like, here's what we got to do. We need to create this system, this community of like this online thing so that like the people who love our products can come talk to us directly. And then we remove, corporate, field sales, reps, store, right? And so let's talk to them. Like, let's find out what they love and what they really need. So it was the day I was going to go in and take it to my boss. And that's when I got like this awkward one-on-one with her and another person, and I got laid off. And that's when it started my journey of finding my way to building online communities. Some people believe that they want to have their kids have a better world than they had. My parents totally had that. And like, we're able to like anything that, travel, education, they made sure to have. That was very important. My ex did not. He grew up with parents that was like this was good enough for us. This is good enough for you. So I like brought that into our marriage of thinking like, whatever your dreams are, I will make that happen. So while I was, trying to find my way into like the high paying jobs, all this stuff, trying to navigate a world of men and sexism that I didn't even realize was there. And what's my role in it? I had this man at home who was suffering, and he wanted to be an artist. So I was like, okay, let's find a way to do it. Any dreams and hopes that he had, I was like, let's make it possible, right? I will get back to my dreams later. Yeah, but you just can't really feed someone's dreams if they're not ready to feed it themselves. I discovered feminism and women's studies when I was 16. And got to study that a little bit, almost in secret, like with minors on the side when I was at university. And so I had all these thoughts that were just starting to bubble in my head, like about the role of a woman, of relationships and stuff that I had in university. But then like, I don't know, as soon as like the ring was on the finger and then the wedding snowballed to be this big event, it just, I don't know. I still had those questions inside of me of who I am, but I didn't quite explore that. And I think all of that kind of got lost in the 20s as I was trying to do what I thought I was supposed to do, which was provide, right? I took that conversation with my ex about I have the most potential to make more money so seriously. I didn't realize how much I was struggling with the identity of being a wife and marriage and how much that brought into me. And I thought My ex knew about it, but of course, how can anybody know something if you don't tell them what's in your head? So my stories of love were Disney movies. The greatest lie ever told is, and they lived happily ever after. Curtain, applause, done. In my particular case, I was the breadwinner. You know, I was the breadwinner before. And I was the one who went to the lawyer's office. And just as a informational before anything happened, just to find out if I leave my house, do I still have, authority of it? Something, my name was on the house. That was something that my parents were very, 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 they instilled deeply. It was like, make sure your name's on everything. Before, right? This was something that as soon as I was a kid, own a bank account, things like that. So, but and also I'm a very good student, so it's like do my homework. When things were like questionable, I went to go see a lawyer, sat down in her office, and I remember how her tone shifted when she realized that I was the breadwinner and the one with the money. And because I was also asking questions like, will I owe alimony to my ex, because at that time I was like, I was supporting his entire life. He did not have a job on paper. He quit his job before we had all this shit, that like the person who I am now would have never fucking stood for it. I'm going to swear, you can cut it out or leave it. But like the person who I am now would not have would not have stayed in a relationship. She did not stay in a relationship, but would not have stayed so long and so loyal to this person who did not meet her expectations, did not support her, who waited 10 years into a relationship to say, I think that you're more married to your job than to me. There was so much that was happening, and I was remembering all of the thoughts and ideas I had in university, quietly, with the looking through the feminist books and going to feminist book clubs and reading The Beauty Myth and having it totally flex my brain, and that I want to write. The first title that I wrote for my book was going to be Arguments Against Marriage. I'm not against marriage, but I'm against going into marriage without knowing what you're bringing into it. And I brought so much into it without knowing what to do with it. I remember when I was 6, classmates dressing up as brides for Halloween. And that's just such part of what we all did. Like, at my grandparents' houses, on the walls were always people's wedding photos. And if you weren't married, it was your high school graduation photo. So it was like, those were like the marks, subliminally, without being talked, with no conversation about it, but that's what you were striving towards. It is a fucking construction. It's a societal construction. But it's a real thing. You just can't see it and you feel it. And that's the part that makes me really angry. When people hear that I'm writing a memoir about my divorce, they think that it's a how-to manual of how to survive it, of how to deal with the emotions and stuff, which is true. That is a needed thing. It's not a book about my divorce and the crumbling. That, like, my marriage is in the flashbacks, but it happens moving forward as I'm trying to deconstruct who I am, what things I brought in, different views of the world, being an American girl who lives in different countries, things like that. What I've been writing this week based on, is essentially a feminist manifesto of perspective of divorce and marriage that will go at the end of the book as like a reader.